Hey everybody, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. We're going to check in on crypto. We have a pretty weak day out there with a lot of red. We're going to talk about the possibility of the weekly lower highs shaping up. We've been mentioning that the last couple streams as a possibility to prepare for, and we'll essentially go over what the bears have to do to prove to us that those weekly lower highs are indeed being set. Thanks for the likes and the shares along the way. Let's get to it. So first things first, we've got the last couple of days of our indicator sale going on our website. Going to talk a little bit about a couple of them. Of course, you know the back burner, but Superstack, historical RSI, things like that. I did a webinar the other day going over how I use all these indicators, and that is on our YouTube channel if you have any interest. So Bitcoin, big drop. So why are we dropping? Again, first off, you know I talk about correlation with the NASDAQ a lot because it's there. And the only people that don't see it are the people that are zoomed out from 1,000 feet. But if you pay attention to what happens when the bell rings to when the bell rings at the end of the day, it is very often extremely correlated. And let's just quickly prove it again for the 700th time. We've got Bitcoin on the left, 15-minute time frame. We've got the NASDAQ on the right, 15-minute time frame. Here is the bell ringing. Here's your drop, your bounce, lower low with no follow through. Here is the bell ringing, your drop, your bounce, the lower low with no follow through. It's the exact same chart. Bitcoin is dropping in this manner because when the bell rings, a ton of bots and algos that are trading automatically are trading Bitcoin based on what the NASDAQ is doing. And then when the bell rings, that correlation diminishes significantly. But it is extremely prevalent very often, especially in fear. So why is the NASDAQ dropping? Well, people will point to the manufacturing data that came out this morning, and that happened right about here, this high volume candle, manufacturing data. And that definitely, got things going for the bears. But again, the daily chart, we've just been talking about this equilibrium the entire time. Here's the NASDAQ futures chart. Daily lower high was the most likely scenario. We were looking for the higher low the last 4 or 5 days ago. Now we were looking for the lower high today, and we get it. So technically speaking, it's doing exactly what it should do. And we're going to look for this break to be pretty important. Again, this pattern has been tightening up since the FOMC, and it's going to be 3+ weeks in the making. And it's going to break sometime, likely within the next 3 days, because again, we can anticipate, okay, if we pull back, and even if we hold support and then bounce, that's 2 more days that have gone by, then a break is imminent. So probably this week, but again, we don't have trading on Thursday, so maybe not. But if not this week, then first thing next week. The direction that this breaks is going to have some significant implications on what we expect for crypto. Again, can crypto disregard it? Absolutely, that's a possibility. But more often than not, it doesn't. It's just a puzzle piece. It's a clue to be utilizing. I'm not going to say that Bitcoin and crypto is going to do exactly what the NASDAQ does, but I'm going to look at what the NASDAQ does and apply that to my analysis of the crypto space. So Bitcoin, we were talking about first, the bear break with no follow through to look long. All right, that played out. Then we were talking about if we fail 100,000, looking for an inverse head and shoulders. Was this a daily high or low? This is where, for me, it is a bit of my own discretion where I say no. I refer to this as a dinky pivot. What do I mean by a dinky pivot? I mean we broke the low of the previous day by a couple $100 and it lasted like 5 to 10 minutes. To me, that's not, yes, it's a support level to be watching, that 97.2, a short-term support for sure. But is that the daily high or low? No, I don't consider it a daily uptrend confirming. As far as I'm concerned, this is all one straight shot of 12% straight off the lows, and we have not clearly confirmed a daily uptrend yet. You can also just go to the 2-day time frame to smooth it out if you'd like. And so now it's the bulls needing to confirm a 2-day uptrend. But essentially, what we would call this would be a lack of acceptance over 100,000. We got over 100,000, couldn't stay above it, and came back down. So is this a weekly lower high forming on Bitcoin? again, your game plan absolutely has to have that as a possibility. Is it the most likely scenario? This is just one red day. I can't say that yet. But you better be preparing, because if we confirm a weekly downtrend, that means we will zoom out to the monthly. The bearish candle from last month will be following through into monthly consolidation. And at that point, where's our next support level? If we lose the 90s, I'm then looking down. There's a level at 88.7, but really at that point, we're then looking at previous resistance as a major level in the 70s. And that's where monthly EMA 12 aligns. So there is a lack of immediate support under 90,000. So again, just there are two ways this plays out. We hold that low of 91 and we recover and we head back to all-time highs, 110,000 plus. Or we confirm the weekly downtrend, have a lack of support under 90,000, and look to the possibility that we head down through the 80s. And again, that's the fork in the road. One of those two things will happen. And so we can have our own individual probability needles. My NASDAQ factor is going to be way more than a bunch of other technical analysts, just because I'm trading stocks all day. And that's, my preference is, merging of the two markets to a certain degree. And so, maybe the NASDAQ breaking bear increases my probability needle of a Bitcoin weekly downtrend confirming by 15%. Maybe for somebody else, it's only 5%. But for me, it is a significant factor. And so that's the next bit of information I'm looking for. Superstacks. So Superstack is one of the indicators I was talking about first thing. And again, it tells us when we are at extremes on a bunch of time frames aligning. And in the top right corner now, when I turn on the indicator, this is a heat map of what all the RSI levels are doing on these different time frames. So when the 4-hour Superstack is firing on Bitcoin like it did when we were up over 100,000, that is telling me we are overextended on the 4-hour, the hourly, the 30-minute, the 15-minute, and the 5-minute all at the same time. That tells us bulls are exhausted on those time frames. That ends up marking a temporary top. Back here, same deal. Early December, big spike up, bulls exhausted, big pullback. Why didn't it fire here? Because it was more of a steady climb and the shorter term RSI levels were not nearly as extreme when we ended up topping out. And right now we have an hourly Superstack trying to get a bounce going because of how crushed we were on the hourly on down. But we have a 15-minute downtrend guide. And at this point, if this is going to mark a bottom, number one, the NASDAQ's got to do something. But number two, this needs to shape up a 15-minute inverse head and shoulders. So just looking in the short term here, bulls need another leg up. Key resistance is going to be 98.3. And then we must confirm a 15-minute uptrend in the manner of an inverse head and shoulders if an hourly oversold bounce is going to get going. And then we just play the zoom out game. Then we zoom out to the hourly. We scout an hourly lower high. We watch how significant is that bounce retracement to help us determine the most likely scenario. If it's a bounce that's 382 retracement or less, that's not ideal for the bulls. They want 50% plus. But for now, the 15-minute time frame is where I'm finding the clarity. So we'll check back in on the 15-minute chart here before we wrap up. Let's look at altcoins. Actually, let's look at dominance first. So dominance, again, this weekly chart can easily keep tightening up for a number of weeks. High, low, lower high, and now potentially a higher low forming. If this is going to be a higher low forming on the dominance chart that follows through, there's only two ways that happens. One way, Bitcoin breaks out and leads in a new all-time high while altcoins are a bit weaker. They're not as strong as Bitcoin. The second way it plays out is we set weekly lower highs in crypto and altcoins drop harder from their weekly lower highs than Bitcoin does. How this weekly chart breaks is going to have significant implications in how we view the crypto market into February and beyond. And I'm sure Ben Cohen is going to be all over this talking about, when this tightening range breaks, the implications of what that tells us. So pay attention. The NASDAQ daily tightening range is going to break long before this weekly range on the dominance chart. But I know that these are the two very important things that I'm watching in the shorter term here. Crypto stocks. So MSTR got a big time bounce the last few days. Have to confirm a daily uptrend if we're going to follow through, right? We're coming right off the low, just like Bitcoin did. It's a nice move. We have created space for the higher low. But as we know, you've got to confirm the trend change if you're going to follow through. So today's a daily inside bar. If it breaks bear tomorrow, we'll look for a daily higher low, anything above 285. And then the burden is on bulls to prove to us. This is why we don't chase, right? So this is the bulls getting our attention. Hey, bulls are proving something. But if I want better risk reward, I know I have to wait for daily consolidation. Otherwise, I'm chasing. And so now we're waiting for that daily consolidation. Coin, same deal. Daily consolidation already underway. This is its own little version of an inverse head and shoulders. Can we set the daily higher low and confirm the uptrend? And obviously, Bitcoin's going to have a significant say in whether that happens or not. The miners got a nice bounce as well off of their low, same deal. Big bounce. Can you confirm the daily uptrend to follow through on a weekly bounce? Because we know a weekly lower high is the most likely scenario. And the only way you're going to get weekly bounce follow through is by confirming a daily uptrend. I believe Riot is the stronger. Watch that downtrend resistance line on the weekly chart for Riot. But Riot is the stronger of the miners right now. And again, we could just look at Riot divided by MARA. Yep, it's been outperforming for weeks. Riot divided by CLSK. Yep, it's been outperforming for weeks. Ethereum. Again, the retracement size is so key. Look up Fibonacci's on the Chart Guy's website for a video describing what I'm talking about here. But the fact that Ethereum pulled back 50% plus of the bull move creates the space for the weekly lower high to be the more likely scenario. And so now it's trying to shape up. I'm on the 12-hour for Ethereum, watching just some trend line visual guides here. There's our uptrend line with 1, 2, 3 touches. Here's our resistance line. 1, 2, 3, 4 touches. So worth keeping an eye on. The bears, if we're going to get a convincing weekly lower high, what has to happen? The bears have to confirm a downtrend, right? We just confirmed an uptrend from the ETH bulls. If the weekly lower high is going to be set, we have to confirm a daily downtrend. So that's now what we're watching for on all these altcoins. All right, big drop. Can bears confirm the daily downtrend, or is this just another higher low that the bulls can save and, keep an uptrend going? ETH BTC, a new weekly lower high is set. We've been setting weekly lower highs for the last 6+ months. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and now we have a new lower high. And we know absolutely nothing changes if we just keep forming weekly lower highs. ETH will stay weaker than BTC as long as that is the case. XRP, still holding on the weekly chart, still looks fine. Again, some of these daily charts are getting choppy for me. So when I look at this, is this confirming a daily downtrend? You could say yes, that it is. You can also choose to just zoom out a little bit and go to the 2-day chart and say, all right, we were in a 2-day downtrend that broke the lower highs, and now we have to confirm a 2-day uptrend if the bulls are going to follow through back to recent highs. It's all personal preference as to where you find clarity, and it's going to be different as to where somebody else finds clarity. XLM, same deal. You can call that a daily downtrend if you want, or you can go to the 2-day chart. Look at how clear this 2-day has been on the pullback. Lower highs, lower lows, lower high, higher low, bull break. We're scouting a 2-day higher low is the most likely scenario. Weekly chart has a bunch of space to potentially form a lower high. Next couple of days are pretty important in terms of, how are we shaping up these weekly lower highs or not. ADA, another example. Again, big bounce, great job, but there's still space for a weekly lower high. Let's go to the 2-day chart, smooth it out a bit. Bulls need to form a 2-day higher low and salvage things here. Again, if I'm just applying the NASDAQ and saying, and the S&P 500 has the same daily equilibrium that the NASDAQ has. And if I'm saying that that's one of the most important things in the short term, I can lay out in my brain, okay, we got that fork in the road, the two ways that we're going here. If that equilibrium breaks bull in the markets, then crypto will likely set 2-day higher lows and stay okay for the bulls. If that equilibrium breaks bear on the NASDAQ and S&P 500, the probabilities of weekly lower highs being set in many altcoins and Bitcoin itself will increase in probability. So I know that because of how tight we are in the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, I know that's the next bit of information that I'm going to get sometime in the next 3 days that's going to be most meaningful. Looking on down the list here, obviously things are very red today. And again, just going down the list, Ape, that's a very weak weekly bounce. We're watching for the possibility of a weekly head and shoulders. Sand, that's a topping weekly candle, but we have to keep in mind we got 5 more days, right? So that candle can very easily change its shape over the next 5 days, which is why the next few days are so important for me. But, if we're heading towards the end of the week and that's what the weekly candle looks like, the probabilities of weekly lower highs being set is extremely high. So bulls need to salvage this pullback here. A bunch of these weekly charts don't look good right now. And so it's up to the bulls to save things here. And by saving things, they have to set a 2-day higher low and recover. And they need some broader market confidence in order to do that. All right, I'm reading the chat room now. Yep, Quantum went red today. I'm short RGTI again. Hey, everybody. It's not a 5-minute back burner. Why is it not a 5-minute back burner? Bitcoin is not, well, okay, if I want the highest probability back burners, I want to be coming from a breakout. This is range-bound trading. Yes, we had a big move on Bitcoin. But first 5-minute oversold from a breakout and all-time highs is going to have a very different reaction to first 5-minute oversold after a nice bull move, granted, yeah, but we're range-bound, right? We're trading within a range that we've been within for weeks now. So we're not in breakout mode where back burners have high conviction. I go real aggressive when we are in blue sky breakouts, whether it's quantum stocks, whether it's Tesla, whatever it is, because that is the highest probability that a back burner is going to be successful. Anything else is just a lower confidence tier of that setup. Doesn't mean it can't work, but it's not the same thing in terms of conviction. So just be aware, you need to be distinguishing these things, these nuances of when is something most ideal, when is it less ideal, when is it the least ideal. Because not all setups are the same, obviously. How would you define trading discipline? Keep staring at charts all day? No. So if you're staring at charts all day, you're putting in effort. You're building your experience. It's not discipline. Discipline is recognizing FOMO or fear in your brain and not acting on it. Saying something like, I'm done trading for today, and being done trading. I made a post recently on social media where, I don't lie. I don't like drama in my life, and I found the number one way to avoid drama is you just don't lie. And then there's not much drama that goes on, whether it's relationships with your significant other, whatever it is. And so what I will do if I want to be disciplined is I will say something out loud or I'll write it down. If I say I'm done, if I say I'm done trading for the day in my brain, and then, it's much easier to break that. Where if I say it out loud or if I write it down and then I break it, I'm now a liar. I'm done trading for the day. Write it down, say it out loud. I'm taking another trade. I'm a liar. I don't like being a liar. I don't respect liars. So if I want any self-respect, I stick to my words, and words are powerful. So having discipline to not overtrade, having discipline to wait for the setup to come to you, having discipline in all aspects of your life with healthy eating, healthy workout routines, That's discipline. Good question. We got 2 SUI requests. Did we get new all-time highs again? Yeah, that's a lead bull. We're back testing previous resistance as support. Trying to act as support. So far, we're dipping below it. No red flags on this daily chart. Again, I think in the last stream, I drew this resistance line. You just want to keep an eye on it because it's in play. And might have drawn the support line as well. It's a channel. It's a channel. Shh. It's a channel that we're trading within. So we know a daily higher low is the most likely scenario. Hourly oversold is dipping more than the bulls want to see. Obviously, that's due to to Bitcoin's dip being pretty significant. We're in a 4-hour downtrend. So we're playing the zoom out game, same as Bitcoin. You know, where you have a clear 15-minute downtrend. The bulls need to change the 15-minute trend. Then we would zoom out. We would scout an hourly lower high. If we confirm an hourly uptrend, we zoom out. We scout a 4-hour lower high. But bulls need to start changing the trends one time frame at a time to shape up a daily higher low here. If we retrace over 50% of where we just came from, then we create space for a daily lower high from there. We're not there yet. But let's just say we get another leg down, then we look for the possibility of a daily lower high being the result of the next bounce. But we're not there yet. So no red flags at this point on this consolidation. Yep, definitely lead bull. I need to add that to my list, huh? INJ, I know it's one of the weaker bounces here, just in general. But again, weekly, got to be keeping an eye out for the possibility of a lower high. Daily chart, I mean, everything that I just said applies here. We did not confirm a daily uptrend off the low. Well, let's go to the 2-day, condense it down. You could say we confirmed a 2-day uptrend. That wasn't much of a pivot there. But we're scouting a daily higher low. Ideally, bulls hold the back test of these EMAs. When you reject from EMA 12 a bunch, can't get over it, you want to hold that back test. So again, one red day, right? We can't get a ton of information from one red day. We just bounced 35, 40% right off the low. Daily consolidation is inevitable. So can we keep that retracement size healthy? Can we hold the back test of the EMAs? Can we set that daily higher low? That remains to be seen over the next however many hours. 15-minute downtrend is our guide. Then we zoom out and look for an hourly lower high. Looks like the NASDAQ might be bouncing a bit better than Bitcoin at the moment. So that's the NASDAQ. Yeah, a little bit of relative weakness for Bitcoin compared to the NASDAQ. Bitcoin also hit a lower low before the NASDAQ did. Data definitely does add some volatility. Make rules for yourself, absolutely. Yep, Polar Bear Man's got it. So made his month 3 days ago. Time to sit back, not over trade, and give that back. So I said our membership is not a signal group, but do me and my team post every move you make the same moment, or you just teach how to do things? Both. I'm not posting things saying, hey, I'm in this trade, follow me. I'm posting to educate, hey, this is how a full-time trader is seeing this market. This is how I'm positioning. So I post most of my trades but I also don't advertise them as an alert, like Dan just entered, RGTI short at this price. No. And I often intentionally bury things in a thread of what I'm doing to ensure that the people that are seeing what I'm doing have been following the chart. Because otherwise what happens is I say something, someone who's not paying any attention to that chart just jumps in and tries to follow me. They're not doing the same maneuvering and nuanced positioning of selling partial and placing the stop at the same spot. And there are plenty of times where I can end up green in a trade that doesn't work out, and someone can end up big red because they're just blindly following me, having no idea what they're doing. Whereas if they are following the chart, if they're following the setup, and then they'll see me saying what I'm doing, entering or exiting, again, it's just I'm trying to show what a full-time trader is doing, because obviously you need to learn from observation, but it is intentionally not having people just blindly follow me, because you will lose money if you're trying to do that, most likely. Render on the daily. Yeah, again, we haven't even started daily consolidation there. So again, we just got to remind ourselves, okay, we just went straight up for a week to the tune of 37%. Daily consolidation is inevitable. So again, that's why I say it's only one red day. We don't have a ton of information. This is expected consolidation. How significant does that consolidation become remains to be seen. Thanks, Kevin. Near. So Near's daily consolidation is more significant. Again, just look at the retracements. So Near, from where we came from, we have now given back, we'll call it 55% of the bull move up. RNDR, how much of the move have we given back? 36%. It's a very different setup. So again, when we're comparing alts, retracements is one way to do it. The names on the weekly that had a bigger bounce retracement from how much we pulled back are stronger than the names that didn't. And again, just a comparison. ADA on the weekly. What was our bounce retracement? 65%. What is SAND bounce retracement? 45%. Those are very different. How do I feel about Doge entering White House? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I think. So how would you decide if it's better to stop out on this drop and wait for lower prices, or set stops below recent weekly lows, risking higher losses? Good question. Okay. So you need to know in advance, right? So this is where we say to ourselves, okay, these names, Bitcoin just ran 12% with no real daily consolidation. Altcoin just ran 35% with no real daily consolidation. In advance, you say to yourself, am I willing to sit through daily consolidation or not? If the answer is no, you're walking up a stop loss on the 4-hour or the hourly chart, probably 4-hour, to ensure that when we lose the 4-hour uptrend, you're out and you're not sitting through daily consolidation. If you're trying to let a longer term trade play out, if you got a good entry, you were ready for that Bitcoin 92 break with no follow through, or that Link 20 break with no follow through, and that's where you entered, and you've got profit cushion and you got a break even stop risk free, and you want to let it play out longer term, then you are sitting through this. So it depends on the individual, but again, these are things that we can know in advance, right? We know we have to consolidate if we've gone up significantly with no daily consolidation. So you plan in advance. What time frame is going to be your signal? I personally, I'm only using that weekly level if I got a good entry. My, break even is down near that low. I'm not going to be buying Bitcoin at 98,000 and using a stop of 91,000 That's way too much risk. The risk reward setup for that trade is not good. It needs to be, I'm in at 92,000, I'm out partial at 95,000, my stop's under 90,000, and I'm just letting it play out. Thanks, Alan. Glad you're learning stuff. Do I believe in the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, which many people are looking towards marking a high in late 2025? I mean, it is a thing, clearly, but I don't let it dictate my decisions. Why? Because patterns are meant to be broken. Patterns work for a while, and then eventually, I mean, there's going to be, in my opinion, there will be a Bitcoin halving cycle that catches bulls so off guard and is just bearish. I think that's going to happen at some point. I have no idea when. It's just a wild guess. But again, when the market gets used to something, then people front run it and the market dynamic shifts when something happens so often. And so I think, you know, the more, but anyways, I don't want to, yes, it's a thing, but I am not letting it dictate my decisions. All right, wrapping it up. 88 likes. Whack. Appreciate you watching. We'll check back in. Again, the next couple days, pretty key. Watch that NASDAQ, S&P 500, equilibrium in the direction that it breaks. Do the bears follow through here? Watch some 2-day time frames for some clarity, perhaps. But as of right now, we'll call this a lack of acceptance over 100,000. And with where we stand right now, we have given back more than half of the bull move that we just saw. And it's fast and hard happening in one day. All right. Do good things.